And we are back with one more lesson, creating web application from scratch. Application like apps like Twitter and the like. You write something, post it, and it appears on the screen. Let's keep it going. So we got HTML here, very nice, but we got nothing particularly interesting. So let's add a draft. Let's make a draft of what we need to build. That's typically a good way to start building an application. Right now we don't have any data, right? Have no users. They haven't written anything for us. So we got to make some kind of fake data. You have to draft it all up. And then when you got it drafted and we make some interactions, make it behave correctly as you type text, it adds a new entry to the list of things you have written. And then once we got that working on the front end, that's when we finally hook it up to the back end where we actually have the data be what we call persisted, right? Meaning the data doesn't disappear after we reload the browser. Because the data has to be somewhere. Whatever we wrote, it has to be stored somewhere. Otherwise, it doesn't just magically appear like that. That must be a place. There must be a place where the data is. That's where it'll be in the database. And through the server-side API, we can access that data. Server is going to ask the database, hey, user wants to access this data, give me the data. Then server-side obtains the data if there isn't any problem and sends it back to what's called the client, which is on the front end. Anyway, let's get going. So let's make a draft of this very picture here. So content goes here is not very interesting. I'll just write something. I'm going to put this inside what's called a div tag. I'm going to enclose this tag in the div tag. Div tag is like a tag with nothing in particular. The most is like kind of has no meaning by itself. That the div and the span are the meaningless tags, and they're used usually. You can get started with. You can pretty much do anything with them. The difference between a div and span is the way the content is shown. The div will have whatever you put inside it take space of the whole line. And the span will only take space for if you type like a word, it will only take space for that word. It will not fill the whole line and push everything to the next line. Something like that in simple terms. We're gonna see. So anyway, so we have that. I'm gonna break the line, and I don't need to have spaces around the tags. I can add spaces you want, like to organize things. It's up to you. I notice I always indent every time I open a new tag, so I can see the structure and the nesting levels. For the HTML, after I open HTML, I add one level indentation with 2 spaces. After I open head, I add one more level. Now it's like 2 extra spaces with a total of 4 from the beginning. So that means that's 2 levels, right? 2 times 2, 4. The same thing here in the body. So let's get started. I'm gonna write something. I'm gonna write the draft for these things that are written by the user. So I have some junk text, fake text inside. So to do that, I'm gonna use what's called Lorem Ipsum generator. It's a very nice thing, like to generate random text, so you can fill in your applications you don't particularly understand what it means, because you want to focus on the building of the application and not on what's written there. So I'm gonna go to my browser. There's this website called Ipsum.com. I'm gonna click generate Lorem Ipsum right here. It's gonna be a bunch of random text. I can just copy and paste into my application. Let me copy this part back to my text editor. And I'm gonna paste it inside between the opening and closing div tag. Now my editor doesn't have soft wrap, so maybe I'll add that to make it easy for you to read. So it will appear that things are in a new line, except they are not. It's just squeezing everything in this view here so you can see. Anyway, I pasted this text here. Now let's make 2 more. Open and close the div. In between, I'm gonna copy another piece of text. And I'm gonna make one more pair of divs. Opening, closing divs. In between, I'm gonna place the text. Great. Now I have that. Let's save the file and go to the browser. Back to the tab where I had the application open, the site, reload. And now I can see write something, and the first paragraph, second and third, it's there, but it looks really ugly, right? Because there's no styling. It's just the structure in the text. Comes, you can see it comes in sequence. Okay, I want to show you something to analyze. You already know that you can see the source code right-clicking the browser and view page source. That's fine, but there's also another very, very useful thing called the developer tools. Every browser modern browser should have it. The way you can open it is press F12, and it should appear either on the side or on the bottom, depends on how you choose here, the dock side. For example, I can put it at the bottom, or I can put it on the left side, so on. Anyway, maybe I'll put it on the right hand side. So this is called the developer tools. I don't care about this, close it. So we are in the elements tab. The elements tab shows the document object model, so-called DOM. Okay, and that's all the tags in our site. So if you hover with the mouse, you can see it highlights the section of the site that corresponds to that. So you can see the divs is each text, and you have the write something div. You can see the div occupies the whole line from left to right. You can see this write something occupies the whole line. You can see it's highlighted from the left all the way to the right hand side of the page, and that's the div. In contrast with the span, if you had this as span, it will highlight only up until the word something at the end of something there. It would not go all the way to the end of the line at the right hand side of the screen area there. These are the body, HTML is the whole thing. Obviously the head is metadata, so it should not be part of the content that you see. And you can see in the headers the title, remember, write something. So this will be very useful as we develop the application. Alright, so I think we're good for now, and see you in the next lesson.